Do you believe in miracles? We got Fizzle in the house. Fizzle, what's good, man? Fizzle, glad to have you here.
Let's go. This the South Harmon Podcast. Glad you here today. Hit that Patreon link if you here to stay. Dynasty best ball, that's my favorite way. 40 chess trade show, let's make a trade today or check a AMA. You know Adam at the ATM. Mike always in the building, he gon' stay with him. They gon' start every show off with their own trade. Fantasy's a big ocean, they made their own wave. Make sure you tapping in Tuesdays and Saturdays. Tuesday night, Saturday morning, ain't no better way. Hit that notification bell when the news break. Go subscribe right now, don't get the news late. Destination Devy, that's the team. Dynasty Football, man, that's my favorite thing. I remember Biggie said it was all a dream. Now people watching on their phones and computer screens. Welcome to the team. Let's start the show.
Welcome back in, everybody, to another edition of the Dynasty Trade Show. And as you can see, Adam is not solo this time. I am back. But Adam did a fantastic job while I was gone. We were like two ships passing the night. He's taking a little trip out to New York, spending some time with Nick and the BDGE crew. And then I went down to Daytona Beach to spend some time with my old man. Took my family down there, but I am glad to be back. Adam, did you miss me? Did you miss me? How's doing a solo trade show? How'd you like that?
I'll tell you what it was. I'll give you the good and the bad, first and foremost, all right? So the bad is, you know, you're by yourself and you're trying to talk for 50-something minutes, and you realize, like, I took one sip. Like, I only drank one time during that time because I don't have, you know, the big guy helping me get my sips in. So that part was... The good part is when I'm not with you, though, I mean, fuck, man, can I talk? I mean, I can just talk and talk and talk, you know? You don't get to do that. You don't get to do that when it's me and you. We're constantly fucking trying to get our thoughts in. But no, much prefer doing it with Mike, the guy, my guy. Did I miss you? I mean, do you want a quarterback in Superflex? Do you want multiple quarterbacks in Superflex? I mean, what kind of question? This is amateur hour? It's a clown question, bro.
Clown question.
So happy to have you back, man.
I love it, man. What'd you pull up for deals this week? We got anything good to talk about?
We do. Before we get to that, if you do want your deals featured on this show, patreon.com/South Harmon. Until the season starts, $1 a month is going to get you in the door. Go ahead, put your trades in the Shithead Trades channel. You'll have an opportunity. We're doing 2 shows a week at the moment to get your deal on the show. So make sure you're checking that out. Also, if you could, you don't want to do that. You don't want to give us any fucking money. You don't have to do that. Just if you could, please go down, hit the like and subscribe button. Helps us out tremendously growing the channel. Lastly, if you could, if you're into the WoRP tool, first of all, if you're not into the WoRP tool, you don't know what it is, southharmonff.com/WoRP. Go take a look at that. $6.90 a month. You can get all the wins over replacement value for your leagues, the roster construction. And if you do already have the WoRP tool and you're interested in it and how to really utilize it, Dynasty Mind Warp is going to be available on the southharmonff.com website here pretty soon. Should be towards the end of July. We have it finalized and out there for you to take a look at. If you like podcasts, you like listening to content, this is going to be a binge series for you. And something you should keep in mind with all your leagues moving forward this season. So now that that's out of the way, Mike, let's talk about you know, what did we do? We got you on here. Let's talk about this one. Really sexy trade to start off the show, man. You know, we got to do it the shit way.
You didn't even pull my best trade from vacation.
I know, man. I know. All right, Mike, let's see what we got here. 12-team Superflex, half-point tight end premium, best ball start 10, Elite Fantasy Nation. Mike, what do we know here? Talk to me about this, man. Tucker Kraft for Zach Wilson. You're receiving Zach Wilson, sending away Tucker Kraft. I did happen to see in the Shithead Trades channel. I wasn't gonna put it on the graphic, but it's a guy you got off waivers. Somehow didn't get drafted and came available on the waiver wire. So $15 of offseason fab turned into Zach Wilson. That's, you know, prior cost win. But let's talk about the trade that you made specifically. I mean, I'll let you just have the floor.
All right, we're gonna go on a diatribe. Come with me. This is like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. Actually, it'd be Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory because they did a lot more singing. Right, it was a lot more animated with Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory versus Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. But I digress. Come with me, and you'll see.
You'll see. You know what? I like this too. One of the new themes of the Dynasty Trade Show is Mike singing on it. Let's go.
All right. So flex here, Adam. A little flex. Defending champ. Let's go. All right. Didn't have any picks, I don't think, in the rookie draft. So everything I got was off waivers. Somehow Tucker Kraft on waivers, picked him up, like he said, for $15 and went, hey, look at that. You know, I got a guy who I would have taken in the third round of the rookie draft off of waivers. This is pretty awesome. As a defending champ, let's go.
Right.
Adam, I'm also just of the opinion, right? Tight ends and half-point tight end premium, best ball leagues, they just don't matter. I'm going to try to run it back this year and try to compete again. I did make another trade in this league, a much better trade that I wish you would have featured, but this is fine too. We can talk about my love, Zach Wilson. Here's the thing.
I felt like this was just an opportunity that the community couldn't miss having this one.
I get
you know.
Here's the thing with Zach Wilson.
Wait, which trade was that, by the way?
Jared Goff on the league simulator, the 102 next year.
Oh, damn! You know what? I think I missed that one actually. I thought you were talking about the one that I reviewed on my one last week when I did Chris Olave and Breece Hall for Jamar Chase.
Jared Goff was my QB3. I also had Ryan Tannehill as my QB4 in the best.
Wait a minute, was this that? Oh no, you traded Goff in that quarterback horde league. Okay, it was a different league. All right,
different league. But so this one, I'm just trying to look for just another option at quarterback. Now, is Zach Wilson probably playing this year? Probably not. But would I rather roster? I mean, it's deep enough benches. Would I rather roster the 0 this year if I'm trying to run back a defending championship roster of Zach Wilson, or a potential 0 at the tight end position like Tucker Kraft, who I already picked up from waivers, mind you. That's how much people valued him already in this league, that nobody drafted him through 5 rounds.
Right.
I'm going to take the shot on the quarterback because I know people point to the Josh Rosen thing. I've heard this damn argument with Trey Lance about 1 billion times. But let's also look at all the top 3 quarterbacks drafted in the NFL and the amount of second chances that they've gotten. All right, let's start off with my Philadelphia Eagles, Carson Wentz. Possibly on his 4th team, 4th chance coming up, you know, if the Vegas rumors are true or if somebody else gives him a shot. But went from Philly, then he went to Indianapolis, and then he got traded to Washington and started a bunch of games there last year. Jameis Winston, 30 for 30, right? The 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. Then he goes to the Saints. Actually got an opportunity to start for a year and a half. How about Marcus Mariota? Right? Unceremoniously ejected from Tennessee, goes to Vegas, has 1/2 of a game where Derek Carr, got injured that he looked good and everybody lost their shit for him, goes to Atlanta, starts the majority of the year. So you're going to sit here and tell me that a guy like Zach Wilson, who is the number 2 pick, this will be his 3rd year, won't get another shot to start a good chunk of a NFL season for a team somewhere at some point? Fuck out of here, man. It's happening. Sam Darnold. Jesus, I almost forgot about Sam Darnold.
I was actually so excited that you'd went through this list and forgot about your favorite Sam Darnold.
Golly.
Mike at one point had touted the resurrection of Sam Darnold in Carolina. So
Baker Mayfield.
Thank you. Okay, we got him. We got him, ladies and gentlemen. We got him, right?
Well, what's Tucker? I like Tucker Kraft, man. That's kind of our guy if we got to pick the guy in Green Bay to be the tight end. But Adam, the reality of it is he's probably a 0. He probably doesn't do anything. He's probably all right, so we also had this today, right? Evan Ingram gets an extension. And you remember the guy that we kept drafting in the 4th round of every one of our rookie drafts because you're I can't believe this 2nd round tight end that the Jags drafted is still here in the 4th round. Y'all tripping. I'll go ahead and take every share I can get of Brenton Strange. And now what are we going to do with every share of Brenton Strange we have? We're going to cut his ass right to waivers where Tucker Kraft could suffer the same fate immediately, and nobody's going to be shocked. Nobody's going to be shocked.
Let me just say this though, Mike. I'm actually just curious about this league. So setting wise, it's only a half-point tight end premium, but is it a start two by chance, or is it just one?
Just one.
Wow, interesting, because the WoRP is actually the line's higher, and I don't know if it's because of the scoring for everybody else, but regardless, we'll have it pulled up on the screen here so you can see it as well. But when I look at the WoRP in this league, right, there's maybe a scenario where what it goes from 6 to 12 is worth nominally something, but realistically, even then, when you get to tight end 6, that's 0.84, right? So you're now below 1. Tight end 5 is 1, Evan Ingram. But realistically, the elite ones are the ones that matter in a league like this, based on what I'm looking at in WoRP. And you can go historically, and it's the same thing. When you look at whatever tight end 6 to 12 is, we're talking less than 0.2 in WoRP. Tight end 12 to tight end 18 is, again, 0.2 in WoRP. Tight end, and then after that, you're talking from tight end 18 to 24, you're talking almost nothing. So the question for everyone listening and watching this is, what is the upside? Like, realistically, create yourself the rosiest of upsides for Tucker Kraft and tell me, like, why in the hell he's worth anything.
Right.
Because realistically, for him to go past tight end 18, and I like the guy, like if you told me that in the next 3 years he's a top 15, 18 tight end, I'm like, we won. Like, you won with Tucker Kraft.
Right.
And guess what happens? In this league, he's worth a fucking nothing to you relative to replacement players. And that's one of the biggest errors that I have found for myself in leagues that I was valuing those, waiting for their ascent and realizing that's artificial ascent and value in Dynasty, because for my team, it means 0. Now in a lineup league, at least, you have a taxi squad, right? So for a year, you want to park him there and hope that he gets here, and now you have tradability. Or if you've dumpster dived and you have nothing at the tight end room, put him in there. Fine. Best ball? No fucking way. I need every one of these spots as close to firing as possible. And if I'm not going to have a spot fire, it better be at a quarterback or a receiver or something, running back, where when they do become a firing option, they matter. At tight end, it does not. This is not even about this trade, my rant here. My point here is in best ball leagues, I would rather roster Tyler Conklin's, the grossest, nastiest, what you don't care about at tight end, than I ever would Tucker Kraft's of the world.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But it's also where I look at everything you just went about the tight end, and I go, oh, this is a great time for me to go acquire more Zach Wilson, because people fucking hate him and think he's never going to start another game in the NFL again.
1,000%. To the point of your trade, if I'm going to miss on zeros, let me at least have Zach Wilson become a starter, and then there's something there. He does have draft capital. We've seen, it may not be high WoRP, but we've seen all those guys you mentioned before get starts again, and that's just a bump in value and potential spikes. Shout out to the Dynasty Mind WoRP series. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but you can go back and look at, in best ball leagues, how many times in the playoffs quarterbacks that you think are worth nothing end up meaning definitely consistent weeks and a lot of times spike weeks. So Zach Wilson at least matters there. Tucker Kraft, as his chance of being a top 5, top 12 tight end weekly in the next 2 to 3 years are very low. So I'm good. I'm out.
Very, very right. Zach Wilson, at least I could tell myself a story. He might be worth an early second, late first at some point again.
Yep. All right. Chill Will. This is it.
Look, another Tucker Kraft trade.
Mike, maybe we put him on the thumbnail, man. Maybe we do. A guy that you can't, a must trade tight end, because look at the returns here. Wow. Anyway, 12-team Superflex PPR, half-point tight end premium, lineup start 10, the other guys. So, Mike and everyone listening on podcast, the trade is Chill Will is acquiring Travis Kelce, Tucker Kraft, and a 24 first from Impatient Buddha. One of the things I noticed right away, this is a first from a team that is not in the deal. Immediately causes me intrigue before I read anything else. I just wanted to pause and make sure I make that statement. Sending away to get that package back, Garrett Wilson and Tajay Spears. All right, Mike. This one's juicy, man. Very, very juicy. When you get Garrett Wilson in a trade, and Travis Kelce and a first, regardless of what side it's on, I'm intrigued. So I'm going to pull up the WoRP. I don't know if you have yet or not. But what I was going to ask you is, generically, before WoRP, before much of it, just line up start 10 with the half-point tight end premium. Thoughts on the deal as a whole? We're going to run the league simulator and WoRP on both of this trade.
I will say this. For me, Garrett Wilson for Travis Kelce in the 24 first, random 24 first when I look at it. If I'm a competitive team, just how good Travis Kelce has been, I will hammer the shit out of it, even though Garrett Wilson's worth an absolute fuck ton because people love him, right? He's already ascended to that. Hey, he's going to be the next, guy like Chase Jefferson. He's in that tier. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
But Kelce's an actual difference maker, and you get a random first. Right? That's just how I evaluate. The Spears Craft thing, I don't give a shit. Like, I will buy some Tajay Spears. I kind of like him. We just talked about how irrelevant Tucker Craft is in reality. Let's think about it. Like, I'll have him on a lot of my rosters. That's the guy I'm going to plant my flag on for that to be the tight end. But in the long run, Adam, most league settings, doesn't matter. If he even does hit, like we talked about on the previous trade, it's just a wash. It really just is. Like, that's been the biggest wake-up call for the tight end position for me. Travis Kelce, on the other hand, is on the opposite end of that spectrum by a long shot where, depending on your league settings and scorings, like, he is right up there in a WoRP difference maker with some of the elites. The elites. I'm not talking just semi-elite. I'm talking Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Jefferson level elite WoRP difference maker. Garrett Wilson or Travis Kelce in the first. Generically, I'm going to take the Travis Kelce in the first side if I'm a competitive roster. Now, it's a lot to pay for him because market says Garrett Wilson is so damn good, everybody wants him. But I'm telling you, Travis Kelce is a crazy difference maker. I did run the league simulator on this one as well, Adam. So we have an idea.
Well, we don't just have an idea. So
we have a pretty good idea where that pick is.
Well, but this is where there's a couple things I wanted to point out. All right, so Mike, this is one of the things I've been doing when I run the simulator and the WoRP on a trade. This is one of the nice things about the tool that people probably don't realize. What I like to do, right, is so if I run the WoRP and I run it under Chill Will's name, I run the league simulator and I run it under Marcus Leah's name. Because guess what you get to see when you pull up Marcus Leah, whether that's in WoRP or not? You get to see all the leagues, right? So you just get an idea of the person you're trading with. Marcus Leah has a list that I think might beat yours, Mike. This is a heavy portfolio person. I mean, it's probably pushing 50. But when you scroll and you can scroll fast and it keeps going, you got a portfolio. So that's what I know about the person that Chill Will's trading with. Now, WoRP, real quick. Travis Kelce in this league is rivaling, not quite, but he's right next to what Justin Jefferson's worth, and he's worth ahead of Austin Eckler last year. So wins over replacement. Garrett Wilson and Travis Kelce last year, obviously it's a smash for Travis Kelce, but unless Travis Kelce cliffs this year, he's going to beat Garrett Wilson in WoRP, right? So you win that, in my mind, in the right now moment, okay? Obviously taking the risk, but here's the thing about the risk. You run the league simulator, Impatient Buddha is clearly in third. Now, there's a tier, though. Like 1 and 2 are not in the realm of possibilities unless there's something really crazy happening, because the league simulator has wins at 2 and 3 for 1 and 2, whereas Impatient Buddha is closer to 6. There's a scenario where it's a 4th or 5th pick, but there's a very large possibility this is a top 3 pick. So just think about that for a second, right? And the reason I wanted to mention that, even if it's a top 5 pick, I think you win this deal. But if it actually becomes a true top 3 pick, you could replace Garrett Wilson with Marvin Harrison Jr., who this time next year has a chance to be ahead of him in dynasty value. Mm-hmm. Ahead of, at least even neck and neck with. And if it's not Marvin Harrison Jr., you're getting yourself a freaking quarterback.
Right.
In Superflex. So my thing is understanding that is huge. This is the interesting part about this to me, though. Why I wanted to make that Marcus Leah's name referenced. That person is the 102 in this league.
Yes. So
that's already like right there. When I have 2 of the top 3 picks, if I'm rebuilding like he is, this is not happening. This is not happening from that lens for me, ever. I'm not getting off the top 3 pick unless it's maybe 1-for-1 for Garrett Wilson, but not when I'm rebuilding even. Like, I'd rather just have that liquid pick. I want to have all 3 of those. I want to go talk to Trilho and see what I need to do to get that one. If I walk away with the top 3 picks in a league like that, I have endless possibilities. I'm not letting you get the next closest thing to a top 3 pick. What if that pick becomes better than yours? What if you now have the 3 and you traded away the 2? Like, that could happen. So I'm just, this is chill will when I have the context, right? We could talk about this in a generic and late and the vacuums and all that and say I want Kelce side, but I get it from why you're taking Garrett Wilson here. Tucker Kraft's irrelevant in this deal. But when I have the context, this is not even close.
Smashed it out of the park, man, didn't he? What'd you do if you were a rebuilder, right? The pick isn't on the table. I'm with you. There's no way in hell if I was on a rebuilder, I'm already projected to be the 2nd worst team in the league. I also own the guy who's projected to be the 3rd worst team in the league's pick. I'm not trading you for it. Like, it's not leaving. It's not leaving these hands.
I'm not fucking leaving.
It's not leaving these hands. I'm diamond handing the shit out of it. But
right.
I do want to get off Travis Kelce.
But this is okay. Can I say this before? That's the biggest point. Real quick, before you give me this, I'll take the hypothetical question and answer it. Think about it this way. To me, at least Garrett Wilson in that first have to cancel out. It's an early first.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
what did you trade? What did you trade Travis Kelce for now?
Tajay Spears.
Good God. How much do you like Garrett Wilson?
I know.
All right, but get me back on the track. What's the hypothetical?
Garrett Wilson for Travis Kelce and Tucker Kraft. Like, if I was on a rebuild, would you send away your Tucker Kraft and Travis Kelce to get Garrett Wilson? Yeah.
Yes,
easily.
and if I was contending, I don't think I'm doing that. I need more.
If you were contending, you're sending away your Garrett Wilson. I think I'm.
No. I'm saying if I'm. If I'm rebuilding, like I don't think that's. I'm sorry. If I'm contending, I think Garrett Wilson can buy me more than just Travis Kelce on the open market.
Yeah, maybe.
And it's not one of those things where I think that to the point of winning now, right? Like in the middle of October, maybe those points are more even, right? So maybe then you can make that trade.
I think you're right. And I said maybe. I think you're right. I think he can buy you more. But the question is, like, looking at everything that we know from WoRP, shouldn't we be okay with sending away Garrett Wilson for Travis Kelce on your contending teams?
On the WoRP side, it's very fair to say that will happen. To me, though, I know this is a rebuilding team with Kelce. And it's that point is separate from there where I agree.
The leverage, right.
Right. We already know what. Travis Kelce is worth more to the team that has him than anywhere else.
Yes.
I'm not bailing you out by letting you get young and sexy while I take on the risk of if Travis Kelce takes an injury, I go to 0. I'm not giving you that.
Understandable, too, but I also don't want to see Travis Kelce on one of my competitors.
And that's probably where a deal like this gets done. Someone's like, man, if one of these teams I'm contending against that has a hole at tight end gets Kelce, like, nah, fuck that. But I just think
right, like, hey, I talked to Steve in the league, and he's willing to send me Chris Olave straight up for Travis Kelce.
Oh shit! Here's this. This first could be early, but you can just have it. What, Mike? I need out of this trade. I'm sorry.
I know. It was bad.
But to your point, yes. On the contending side, I would rather have Travis Kelce than Garrett Wilson. But when I bring in values, there are people creaming their pants over Garrett Wilson right now, Mike. There's legitimately talk all over Twitter, YouTube about Garrett Wilson legitimately being in the conversation like he's Justin Jefferson and Chase next year. That's a ton of projecting, man. That's a ton of projecting. I'm not saying he can't do it. That's a lot of gain. Anyway, B-Hall, Juju Smith-Schuster, Baker Mayfield, and CeeDee Lamb. Acquired for Jalen Waddle, Desmond Ridder, 24-second. This is a 12-team start 10 at his lineup. Dynasty D-Gens 8.0. Mike,
What's the 8.0?
What it means is this is either the 8th league he's in that they're calling it Dynasty D-Gens, or Dynasty Degenerates has been such a iconized term from 4D chess that you got to go to 8.0 to even put it in the league. I'm guessing this is the 8th league. Not that we iconize the term. Anyway, what do you think of this deal, man? Talk to me. Talk to the people.
Just looking at it right now off the surface, CeeDee Lamb or Jalen Waddle, I'll take CeeDee Lamb, and I don't think it's relatively close for me.
Not
Jalen Waddle is pretty cool, but CeeDee Lamb is really, really awesome. Really, really awesome. Juju or the 24 second. You know where I'm at with Juju. I'll take Juju over the random second, unless I knew exactly that was going to be an early, or this is, Timmy's second. Timmy's horrible at Dynasty. It's probably the 203 at worst. I'll take Juju. Like I know it's start 10, but Juju will actually have some weeks that you're going to plug him in. He will. I promise you. He will have some weeks where you're going to plug him in. If you haven't watched that quarterback series on Netflix so far, I think I'm like 3 or 4 episodes in. Every time they show Patrick Mahomes last year throwing plays, you know who it was too? Other than Travis Kelce. Juju. Juju making plays and breaking off big, long runs after the catch, scoring touchdowns. He's good.
Mm-hmm.
Desmond Ridder, Baker Mayfield. I'd probably rather – I'm not going to say probably. I would definitely rather have Desmond Ridder at this point. Even though I don't think he's really that good either.
No, but I'm with you.
I think he's better than Baker. So you just look at it from that sense, and I'm like, all right, I got a win, I got another win, and maybe a loss. And anytime I can look at a trade like that and go, I got 2 clear wins and 1 maybe loss that's real close, I'm going to take the big wins, the big win side, right? The 2. 2 is greater than 1. Last I could count. I'm not very smart. I am from Iowa. It's the Iowa education system, but 2 greater than 1. So I want the B Hall 7 side with this one.
Yeah, here's what I would say. As a whole in this league, run the WoRP on it, and you'll see it here on the screen. But the reality for me here in this is the difference in the gap between CeeDee Lamb and Waddle is, for me in market and in WoRP, enough to where the difference is negligible between the other two, to the point where I don't care. Because on face value, for me, Mike, not saying that you're wrong to say Juju over a second. I'm not going to go down that road with you. I know you want me to go there. I'm not doing it today. All right?
Do it.
I'm not doing it. I'm not fucking leaving. All right? But here's the point. That's close enough in value where I don't care about it in a league of this nature where it's start 10 lineup. Like, I don't actually care that much in that. I could make the case, like I could really make the case for the second and go buying something else later, but I could also make the case for Juju. It's close enough in value to where that's not going to keep me from taking CeeDee Lamb over Jalen Waddle, if that makes sense, right? Yes. The Baker Mayfield and Ridder thing, I would much rather have Ridder because there's upside if he plays well, and even if it's not great, right? That carries much more weight than Baker, but just on the surface, it's a quarterback in a range in this league that I could give a shit about. It's 24 and lighter, and that in WoRP is 0.26 to nothing. Like, I'm good. You have your decision of what those two things are, whether it's Juju or a second. I don't even care. You can pick those. Let me get the point that matters in CeeDee Lamb, and I'm good. You can take whichever side you want of those positions, but I don't give a fuck about that. We're talking about drastic difference in CeeDee Lamb and Jalen Waddle. And if I have to, dangle these little low-hanging fruits for you for that to be my CeeDee Lamb, piss off, man. Here you go. I'll take that.
Easy money, man. Those some people out there, we might get some Jalen Waddle like super truthers out there.
No,
these guys are really close to get. Not for me, man.
Did you see his yards per route run last year? It's outrageous. No, I actually don't care. I'll say this: even last year, it was 1.55 versus 1.04. So I'm already realizing half a point in WoRP, and realistically, you don't get that out of anything other in this deal other than what Juju is relative to a pick, which is nothing. So, like I would much rather towards the top. And if you look at WoRP again, look at the steepness of this chart, right? The steepness here, the top 5-6 receivers, which we all think CeeDee Lamb is and has shown. That's what wins in a league like this. Just look at the rest. That's not going to be what wins you a league. It's not. Period.
Yes, I'm with you. B-Hall killed this one.
Yep. All right. So let's talk about it, Mike. Next deal. Josh Allen being acquired for Lamar Jackson and DK Metcalf. I know one of your favorites is DK. So this is a 12-team Superflex best ball start 10. League is called Who Needs Draft Capital, Mike. I figured this one would be tugging at you because of this deal as a whole. Talk to me, man. Talk to me. You get a free DK Metcalf for taking the Josh Allen down to Lamar. that's the discount basically you're getting to go from Josh Allen to Lamar is a free DK in best ball. So we can run the WoRP, man. But I'm curious, just face value, what you think here. Because we know in best ball how much these tear downs are huge. But is this too much?
This feels too much to pay for Josh Allen, in my opinion.
I'm with you.
It really does. Like in a best ball lineup, Adam, start 10. Even then, I think I'd probably still want the Lamar and like DK Metcalf because I'm going at worst. I'm plugging DK as my wide receiver 3. You got to face DK Metcalf every single week as my wide receiver 3. Good luck to you, right? If I got a really, really good team, he's in flex, but wide receiver 3 is pretty stupid.
But even in start 10, you want to have at least 5, and you probably want to have 6 receivers, right? Like DK is just absolutely a part of the roster construction of even that team. Now, I think some people will give you the point in a lineup start 10 where DK is overvalued, and you don't have to keep him as your wide receiver 4 or 5. Even then, though, Mike, that feels – I'm with you. I think in a lineup start 10, depending on my league situation and my team situation, I could possibly make the case for up-tiering to Allen, but it feels hard. In best ball, there's no way.
People still really do hate Lamar, though. Like, I've heard things like he can't finish the season. He's got these injury problems, I don't know.
But, Mike, here's what we do need to talk about because that's we agree completely on the face value of just best ball lineup start or best ball start 10, right? Superflex. Too much to get Josh Allen. Now, let's bring in WoRP because this is, I think, the thing that really needs to be discussed. Look at the steepness of this chart, Mike.
Yeah.
Super, super fucking steep. So Mahomes was 3.18, Allen was 2.8, Hurts was 2.61, Burrow was the same thing. You go to quarterback 5 last year, Mike, and it's already, you lose a full point of WoRP essentially just to go to Geno.
Mm-hmm.
And Lamar is obviously, I don't think he'll continue to be what he was but last year you're talking about 1.42, right? So, I mean, you're talking about potentially doubling his WoRP from last year versus what Josh Allen was. Now, the question then becomes really, when you look at the WoRP and see how this league as a whole, it's steep as hell, and then it gets very replaceable after that, basically at all the positions, but at quarterback, it's a slower, it's still steep enough to where every single gain you get is big. My question to you is Lamar somebody that has a chance to get back to the conversation of the steepness, and is that worth taking the DK side, or do you think that just Josh Allen's security market is worth it now when we look at a chart like this?
So here's something too for the WoRP, right? Especially with the quarterback WoRP, and you're doing the series with Scott, but I've looked at a billion of these leagues, and I'm trying to make inferences on my own leagues.
Yeah.
Last year's WoRP, pretty much universal. Top 4 quarterbacks, massive fall off to 5, and then everything goes out. But if you go look at 2021, 2020, 2019, that peak, that sharp decline isn't as sharp. It isn't as sharp in almost any league where it's a lot more flat. So in 2021, it was Joe Burrow was QB5, and he's like a 2.12 WoRP. Josh Allen was number 1 in WoRP, 2.72. Right?
And to your point, like as I ran through a couple different leagues too, the top 8 quarterbacks last year 2021, for example, all above 2 in WoRP, right? So the steepness, although it is steep at the top 2, but the point is those ones are all still realizing a ton of WoRP, the top 8.
Yes, like the top 8 quarterbacks generally outside of last year are all those guys where you go like, yes, I just make my cutoff universally. If you're going to be in that top 8 quarterback, you're relatively similar, although you do get some advantage if you got those perennial 1 and 2 guys, the Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allens. I think we can throw Jalen Hurts and possibly Joe Burrow into that conversation where you go like, they're an advantage. That's why they're kind of in their own tier versus everybody else. Lamar Jackson's close enough that like I definitely think he's getting back in that top 8 territory. That's how I value him in Dynasty. So if I'm already valuing him in Dynasty and I got to trade from like QB2, who's maybe scoring like 2.62 in WoRP, to QB, 7, 8, who might be a 2.02. And you're going to give me a receiver who may not necessarily be at a full point WoRP, but he's going to be damn close to it. I'm making it up in the long run. Like I'm going to make it up over the rest of the entire league. And this is something too with like Lamar Jackson. We also forget there's one point where We talk about Josh Allen in his number 1 WoRP appearance 2 years ago in 2021. People are going to point to that. You'll probably see it in the comments. Josh Allen was QB1. He would have been QB1 last year if it wasn't for the elbow injury. Do we not forget that Lamar Jackson damn near broke fantasy in 2019 with his WoRP? Right? His points per game, his WoRP alone. So we've already seen it for Lamar. I do think the last couple of years have kind of been a string of bad luck. We had the contract situation last year, which did factor into it. The year before, I understand the injury concerns. But last year, you saw the writing on the wall. When he got hurt, he didn't have a contract from the Ravens. They went through this big, messy offseason, this big debacle, whether Lamar would actually be back or they'd trade him. It was a pretty easy decision. And a lot of people who are smart out there had said it for a long time, like, man, Lamar ain't coming back this year. He's just going to sit out. Like, why risk my body any further if you don't know whether or not you want to pay me or not? I think now that he's got the bag, he's got a new offensive system that's not going to have him just running the ball entirely. He's going to be able to throw it, and they did get some weapons around him. I'm excited for Lamar Jackson this year and see what he can do. And I think he's close enough to Josh Allen. For me, lineup, best ball, whatever, you're going to add a DK Metcalf level of a receiver on top of it. I'm going to take that side 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I think there's a few things. One, like, WoRP doesn't always have to be that steep. We've seen it. Now, quarterback 1 and 2 in all the years you run, though, like if you think Josh Allen really is quarterback 1 and 2, which he has been since 2020 and 21 and 2, like he's been basically that. If you think that's more solidified and his market's better, the WoRP will be realized because there's only going to be 1 or 2 of those guys. Now, go back to 2019, you'll see Lamar was the only person at the 3 range, right? So the fact that I know Lamar can get there, though, to me already makes me lean that side. The one thing I'll say is getting a receiver of DK Metcalf's ability in best ball is so big, especially in a league like this where I'm looking and I've run the WoRP in all the last 4 years. When you look at this curve, okay, so understand what I'm trying to get to here. 1 and 2, obviously, and 3 are very, very different, right? There's 2 WoRP or just near that. So after that, it's not the same, but there's no other receiver in that range that is in this trade, right? But what you're looking at is this curve here is one that's very different than a lot of the leagues I look at where it starts to flatten out in that 6 to 18 range very much. It doesn't do that here. It is still it's very curvy, if that makes sense. You know, it's very curvy, and from quarterback or wide receiver 6 to 12, which DK has been all of those things. Even last year with Geno in this league, you're looking at, you know, a top 13, 14 receiver. You adding that into your best ball like league is still humongous. Now, you could make the case on the Josh Allen side, well, I'm just going to backfill with all these free ones and I'll just take the spike weeks here and there. Yeah, you could do that, but DK is too high in dynasty value for me to just want to give that up for the difference in Lamar and Josh Allen, period. That's just my final take on the matter. In using WoRP, using everything, doesn't matter. Nothing in the deal makes me say it just makes sense to go get Josh Allen here.
I don't mind adding DK to a quarterback to go get Josh Allen, right? In a best ball league.
Just not Lamar, right.
Just not the caliber of Lamar, man. It
so
ain't going to be a
Goff.
top 9. It ain't going to be a top 9. Yeah, it's going to be like a Daniel Jones and a DK Metcalf.
What about Kyler?
Yeah, I could do Kyler. I think I could.
But that would be that's going to be like the
ceiling.
Anything from that point on, you're probably out. Like, you're not doing it for Fields. You're not going to do it for Watson. You're not going to do it for anyone in that type of a range, right? You're not going to do it for Dak, correct?
I think you can make the argument. It doesn't make a lot of sense, though. If you're smart and you're a savvy player, you'd probably take the Dak and the DK side. But from a value perspective, I can understand it. I guess
the last point I was going to make. Sorry, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Not the top 9 quarterbacks. Not the top.
That's
9.
fair. I think the thing for me is why I'll say like not even top 12. No. Now, when you get to like Daniel Jones range, let's say maybe if you wanted to do it, I could understand it more. My problem is in best ball. What I would rather do is keep that Lamar, keep that Dak, keep whatever one you're worried about, and just have my 4. Like, just give me my 4 and let him be a part of that 4, and I'm good. I don't need to have Josh Allen, right? Like, if I have Lamar and Dak types, I'm good with having 4 that are in the top 20-ish range and just forget whatever the hell. I'm not saying that he's not really valuable in WoRP, but I think I can backfill quarterback weekly a lot better than I can having him.
Right.
All right, so Dr. B. Harris and Schumer. Mike is staring off into the abyss, and it's not the abyss. He's staring into this trade soul, and why Schumer is a Savage tier member. He's one of the few that's basically never missed a class, even when he has nursing at about 6 a.m. the next morning. Now he's wearing the hats. You know, we're very fond of Schumer, and this is why for the brand, this really hurts our soul, our everything that we do to see this happening to Schumer in the streets, Mike. This is a 12-team Superflex start 12. It's a 2 tight end league. It's best ball. It's full PPR, and it's 0.75 tight end premium. Speaking of open mic is the league's name, we are going to have an open mic session on this trade. So, Mike, you start off with the open mic, buddy.
It's horrendous. Absolutely horrendous.
Is it defend? Schumer, like, could you even try to defend? Is my question.
No. One, I wasn't going to try to defend it beforehand, and then we played, car ball, as like the kids like to call it, Rocket League today, and Schumer's out there grieving the shit out of me in game, right, abusing the new guy. So I told him, I said I would definitely lay into him when we do the trade show. This is one of the stone close worst trades I think I've ever seen in the history of this Dynasty Trade Show right here. This one. It's not that harsh, but no, I can't defend it. Even Adam, would you say in a best ball league, like I would be interested, and you and I both kind of like Elijah Moore, but D-Bro also shit on us the last time we had with Elijah Moore. I will say this. If you just put his value at a second, I told you a best ball league, you got to pay a random second for Elijah Moore. Are you paying that, or are you going, man, I might be able to buy something better with a second, like later?
My own second, if I'm like really built right, like if my roster construction's dope in best ball,
think so?
I could do it. Okay. I could do it. Now, to your point, I'm going to make sure. I'm going to check all the stores first. Like it's one of those, like I'm going to go Google shopping on this. Like,
right.
is someone else going to give me something better, or can I get this cheaper somewhere else, basically, right?
I asked that to set it up where if you put Elijah Moore's value at a second round pick, just a random one.
Let's say I went shopping and couldn't find it, and that makes sense. Got it.
It's a second round pick. This is a 25 first, a 25 second, and let's just say 24 seconds. A first and 3 seconds. One of the first, the only first, is 2 years out for Tyreek Hill. Hill, right? Mind you, WoRP-wise, all the tools we have, the number 2 wide receiver in WoRP last year. A two on the WoRP table. Not beat by many people. Beat by Josh Allen. Beat by Jalen Hurts. Patrick Mahomes. Austin Eckler. Christian McCaffrey. Pretty good. Justin Jefferson, Travis Kelce. Pretty good names. Tyreek Hill, number 9 in total WoRP. Right? Mind you, with Tua, missing time with concussions, especially towards the end of the year.
He's
Tyreek
basically Hill. Josh Allen in WoRP in this league.
Correct. Okay. And I'm telling you a first and 3 seconds. If you said, okay, I would pay a first, or I think a first and 3 seconds is worth it for Tua, I'm not going to fight you.
For Tyreek,
That's fine. Yeah. That's fine. A first and 2 seconds, we could have a conversation. And then you have a Chris Godwin and a third on the other side that I somehow have to justify on how.
Now, here's the craziest part for me, Mike. And I know if you watch this, you're going to be like, how is this the craziest part? Because this is the least mattering in the deal, the most nominal bullshit. Here's what's not happening. Like, just for a second, I want to focus on something that is going to be hard to focus on given the context and the players in the deal, all right? But I want you to Thank you. I want you to understand the point here. This is openly telling someone that I'm fucking rebuilding to hell. Like, if you're trading away Tyreek and Chris Godwin, I know it's a third, but it's my third? Here, you have to understand the problem with that. What that means on the open market is someone will probably say, you know what, fuck, man, I'm not ready to contend. They'll sell you a spot start, which could turn into a 6-week starter at running back or some shit for that third. Like, that would be able to go in a scenario where Cook was cut by Minnesota mid-season, let's say, in a scenario. Now Alexander Mattison might get gobbled up by that third. You're not giving that up in this deal. Before the fact that it's light as hell for Tyreek Hill and Chris Godwin. Like, I needed to make that point because that's not actually the small of a piece in the deal as people think. When you talk about what a 25-second could be, and if it's late versus what a 301 or 2 is, it's not that much. especially when you don't have to necessarily draft a player there. You're not stuck with that pick for all of eternity. I mean, not to mention for me, like Chris Godwin's 2 seconds, and then Tyreek Hill is, you know, I don't know, Mike. Like Tyreek Hill for me is at least a first and a second is probably light, but in best ball maybe someone would do it. I don't know. I just don't see it here. I just don't see it here. I just don't see it.
That's all I know.
I know in a rebuild too. Like Mike, I've been a part of these rebuilds where like you're like, man, I either messed up the startup or the auction, whatever you did, and I'm just gobbling up picks. Like I've been a part of that where you could look at a deal on the surface and be like, yeah, it feels light. Even if I'm doing that in like heavy multiplication, this is too much. I'm not giving you all this for what I got back in return. There's not even a 24 first is the other problem. Like if you tell me we're going to devalue the seconds and Elijah Moore is a part, like you didn't even get a 24 first and Tyreek Hill and Godwin leave your team. You can't do that. You cannot do that.
I ain't saying you got to maximize everything on a rebuild, right? Sometimes you get the whole leverage of like.
We actually would say the opposite. We would say sometimes you can't do that. So I understand like if Godwin was thrown into this deal, but you could say like for Tyreek Hill, it's definitely an overpay. Fine. Like if there's 2 firsts in this deal, we're having a different conversation. But like what I'm looking at, no chance, man. Especially with your third in there, it's just crazy.
How many people you think would buy a Elijah or a Godwin if the cost was Elijah Moore in 25 second?
I think a lot. Now, I think a lot of people would do that, but I will at least say this. For his sake in the rebuild, if that was the case, I could understand that a lot more. Not necessarily on the market side, but that you just at least multiplied Godwin into 2 potentially usable assets, and Elijah Moore, you could trade off of a spike week that could it's going to happen. There's a spike week coming at some point or a top 12 week coming for Elijah Moore. You can then flip him again for another second or something like that. Like, okay, you get off of Godwin for that. But now we're talking about Tyreek Hill here in the deal too. Like it's all at once. It's too much for me, if that makes any sense.
See, this is what happens when the Savage members go off and do best ball leagues without you and I. Like, there's no sanity in it, right? The market goes all over the place. I know the person who was the maddest about it, our guy Rip. He on the league simulator #1 team in there, but now he's got some real competition.
But wait, there's more. Speaking of Rip, let's get to Schumer and Rip. So let's not act like Rip's innocent in this, because Mike, we talk about winning 60% of the deals is the thing that matters. I'm going to ask you, Mike, this deal was made within the last week. Is this deal a trade that you think looks like last week or the last like 4 years ago?
4 years ago? I don't know. Who knew they were?
When was the last time Waller and Thomas were in a deal and it's like first and seconds are involved?
We're hoping the league's still around in 2026, though. If deals like this keep going down, it might be rough for those guys to keep that league open in 2026.
Mike, 2025 second, 2026 first. Sorry for those on podcast. We're out here just, it's exciting for us to make fun of our, Savage team members, especially who we haven't done a Savage semester in a while, but like, we have spent weeks and hours with these people talking about strategy, and you see deals like this, and it makes you you have to lean into it, right? Like, one, we know them on a level enough where we can fuck with them, but 2, this is just crazy to me, these deals that I see. Makes me shake my head. But, all right, Mike, 25 second, 26 first are being acquired by Schumer for Darren Waller and Michael Thomas. Now, if I'm rebuilding and you're Schumer, you send me, should I do this? And I say, hey, there you are, Schumer. That's what I'm looking for.
That's my guy.
That's the thing I'm looking for. And if you're Cody, would you do this is my question to you.
I would, but not now. Not in July 16th.
That's why the answer is no, right?
No, I'm good. Like, I don't do it now. But, maybe you saw that last one with Tyreek and you got a little antsy, right? Trying to unload the rest of his picks. Felt like the clock was ticking. I don't know. I'd do it. Like, I'm not telling you I won't. Like, in season, I might, because I go, hey, I can get Waller. He might be like a tight end 7, 8 for me. WoRP wise, I mean, it's still something to plug in a best ball, a start 2 tight end league, a best ball start 2 tight end league. Like, I don't like tight ends, but, it's a 26 first. I don't give a shit. It's a 25 second. If I win the league this year, like, these are the 2 pieces that just kind of give me that extra depth to help me win. Don't care at all. Don't care at all. I'll send him away.
Well, but that's the point.
I just don't want to do it in July, right? There's so much that could happen. I'm not saying like Darren Waller's going to be bad, but sure, we could find out Michael Thomas's ankle's still screwed. Like, he's horrible, and he's going to miss another year, and then he's worth absolutely nothing.
But we got to lean into that for a second, because the main reason why I say absolutely no on this trade. Now, let's take a look at WoRP real quick. Okay, Travis Kelce 2.8, the highest in WoRP by basically like almost 0.4 over Jefferson, all the other skill players. Sure. So you're telling me, all right, and you're looking at the top 6 all at 1 or higher, Mike. Okay, all right. So you're going to create a scenario where you're saying Waller actually could matter in this league. And you know what? Me and you both would say, yeah, I hear you. And then you're looking at Michael Thomas. Now, you've already made the point with Thomas, but think about it for a second. These guys are both over the age apex, right?
Yeah, both of them, yeah.
Both over the age apex. Both coming off injuries had them shut down. Waller for a while last year. Michael Thomas, how many years has Michael Thomas been shut down because of injury? 3?
I feel like the last time I saw him play was like 2018.
Which
I don't know if that's true.
Which means it's been at least 3 years where there's injury shut down with Michael Thomas. So just think about that for a second. They're past the age apex and they've been shut down for injury, which when you get older, what's one of the biggest problems? Staying healthy. So I'm leveraging out now on a contender, which you want to win right now. I understand that, and your picks may not buy as much as you want right now. But you're sending away, even if you win the league right now, your 2026 first has a chance to be early because of what you're doing to win in trades like this for guys that have a chance by October both to not play football for the rest of the season.
Right.
The timing of this deal makes it terrible. If you told me it's a week before the playoffs or a week before the deadline and Darren Waller is good on the WoRP chart, and Michael Thomas has proven for 10 to 12 weeks he's good on this WoRP chart, we're having a real conversation about this trade. Right now, we're not having anything other than what are you doing? Why?
Right.
Why? It's July. We're going to have the expo in a month, and then we're going to have a month until football. Why? Why?
I like it. A month till the expo, then a month till football. Cody's like, I'm doing it now.
I need to have it today. I did it.
Well, I don't know, man. It was 2 different deals where you saw like one was a 25 first getting pushed in and getting an elite stud in Tyreek Hill, and then Cody goes, hey, I got to push 26 first in. I'm going to have to step down to.
Here's what I know. Whether it was right or wrong, Corey's going to have, all the 25 and 6 first in this league, apparently. All right. 10 teams, start 10, PPR. We're to the new patrons now, Mike. Let's not, crucify these ones because these are the newbies. We like these guys right now for now. D5J gets Tee Higgins in a 24 second. ZT Stokes gets Calvin Ridley, the 301 and the 106 in this year's class, which has not been drafted yet. So, knowing all that, Mike, what are your thoughts?
I'm not a big Calvin Ridley guy, but some people really are.
Yes, that is correct.
I'd much rather have Tee Higgins. Here's the tough thing, though. In a 10-team start 10, Calvin Ridley is kind of on that fringe of whether he matters or not. You know what I mean? Like whether I could start him every single week. Now, Is there a scenario where he's Calvin Ridley of a couple years ago where he was an elite fantasy producer, his only year being an elite fantasy producer, as weird as that seems to say? I mean, the guy's 29 and we've had one good fantasy year, to be honest. Is he that guy or is it kind of done with? And if it's kind of done with, then he doesn't matter whatsoever in this format. Whatsoever. If he's closer to that guy, along with like what Tee Higgins is, like those guys end up being a wash, even though you'll take the youth of Tee Higgins. But then you throw that 106 in there. And Adam, it's probably in a 10-team league, it's probably closer to being a quarterback. This doesn't even say Superflex, Adam. So I can't even say that. Is this a 1 QB or Superflex league?
I think it's Superflex, but honestly, I had Blitz put in the settings, so I'll look in the Shithead Trades channel. just to make sure, but I believe it's Superflex. Regardless, here's the thing. Like I could say Calvin Ridley's at least high enough on.
It has to be a Superflex because WoRP actually has quarterbacks up pretty high.
Right.
Or if it's not, no one cares.
Right.
Okay, so in a 10-team league, Adam, do you think there's more opportunity for like a Bryce Young or CJ Stroud to be there at 106 than there is in a 12-team? Because people just don't care that much.
1,000%. That's what you're going to end up with there.
I think I'm okay with it just because if it is a quarterback, like in a normal Superflex, a 12-team Superflex league, Adam, the 106, like we're talking, that could be Gibbs or that could be JSN. And if I go Ridley and JSN or Tee Higgins in a second, not to even mention the 301 that he got thrown in there, like I would want that side a lot more. But because it's a quarterback in a 10-team league, Stroud, Bryce Young, both of those are going to have massive dips. I mean, people don't want to believe it. I think I had this conversation in the Savage chat too about CJ Stroud, where it's like, yeah, man, the offense is so bad. At some point during this year, like it's almost a given. He's going to go from where he is now at like QE 13, 12, 11, 10, whatever people have him ranked at now. You know, sometime in November, December, we're going to be talking about him at like QB 18, 19, 20.
Right.
Because the offense is horrible and he's a rookie. Like that's almost a given unless he is a god amongst men as a rookie quarterback. Because it's that guy and it's going to be kind of devalued, I think I'd rather just have the Tee Higgins in the second side. I think the new patron did a good job here. Like, I think that was a heady move for me. WoRP-wise, quarterbacks don't really have that much advantage in this league, it doesn't look like, unless you're one of those top four guys. And even then, if I go back and look at historical WoRP, they're still not that big of an advantage because it's a 10-team league. Like, you can find them. You can find them more readily. Give me Tee Higgins. Give me Tee Higgins here. Final answer for me.
Yeah, I think Mike, the crazy part is I think that I'm taking Tee Higgins in Superflex, which the more I'm digging into this, I don't know for sure that it is. And Dynasty Daddy has the quarterback at the bottom here, and like I'm getting almost a feel that it could be one QB, which if it's one QB, this is absolute theft. So regardless, I think I'm taking the 5J side.
A one QB league though with the quarterbacks at like 2-3 points in WoRP? Like that seems absurd.
Well, yeah, because the reality is because it's so tight though, there's only so many that matter, right? Like you're looking at basically trying to have 10 starters of one thing, right? So there's only 10 starters and people are having a hard time, so they're chasing, and you're looking at the guys that just smash. So I think that's the biggest thing.
But the QB 24, I'm just looking at 21 data.
Okay.
Was Ben Roethlisberger. And he's got basically like the same WoRP as like Elijah Mitchell did at running back, right? So it lends to tell me it's a super flex league because even the farther down quarterbacks are still holding WoRP.
Yeah, I mean, but really the reality is the QB position, when you run the WoRP data, so how the WoRP data works is essentially you're looking at, in a league like this, quarterback 1, and it's run weekly, right? So quarterback 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 every week versus what the replacement player is going to be as quarterback 11. So essentially every week it runs against what is not being a starter. So whether it's Superflex or not, it could be that way. Now, regardless, my point is to you, I don't actually know, but I'm taking the Tee Higgins side every single time in both formats is the only thing I have to say.
Here's a good thing we can plug, man. We can actually plug it because it's official. Sleepier.
There you go.
This is a sleeper league.
Do it.
I can actually pull up this league, and we actually have some really cool tools that we've gotten on here.
Well, I'm over here plugging. I'm pulling up Dynasty Daddy. I'm trying to do everything I can to see. Go ahead.
Plug our own shit, man. We got Sleep here. We'll pull it up the league, and I can actually see the lineups based on the teams.
Do it. Let's talk. Let's have it out.
It is a super flex league.
Okay, there you go. So, still, I want Tee Higgins. It's not by a country mile like it would be in one quarterback, but in Superflex, I still want Higgins, and the reason for me is in a 10-team league like this, what I'm going to end up with in totality is going to be like the 301 in the second. In this league, I really don't care, honestly, if I'm being honest. Unless that's 201, 204, 203, like it's just not in this league. I don't give a shit.
It's crazy, too, because this tool is so awesome. The Sleeper tool is completely free. Go check it out on
our website.
If you've used like something like Dynasty Nerds, Dynasty Daddy, Basically kind of the same thing. Dynasty, they just have some different tools, but JCap keeps adding so much cool stuff to this. Him and Koopa keep working on this. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But Adam, it's cool because I can see his entire roster, so I can give more context, right? I can just plug it in. I can look at the damn thing, especially after this Tee Higgins trade. If you think he got rid of 106 or 105, CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, if that's who we're going to plug in there because it's a 10-team Superflex.
That's what it's going to be, yeah.
His quarterbacks right now are Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence. Neither one of those dudes was cracking that Superflex.
It's the biggest it's the biggest problem people that don't play in 10-team don't understand. Now, I will say that statement's hard to say because I don't play in 10-team, but I'm asked so many questions that I have dug into it on 10 teams and seen all the different leagues and seen literal different teams in all those. The problem is because the scarcity is so dumbed down now, everybody has two good quarterbacks. Like, I'm not kidding. Every team has a Kirk Cousins and a Jared Goff. They all have quarterbacks that are worth starting. So when you tell me CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, like, I'm probably going to have to hold them for a year or two where they're not worth playing. Right. And then even after that, are they worth playing? Like, I don't care about them in this format.
So to the other point, too, like, those quarterbacks weren't cracking his starting lineup, period, this year. They would be hard-pressed to crack his QB3 spot because it is, you just mentioned him, Kirk Cousins, sitting at QB3. His QB4 on his roster is Kenny Pickett. Okay, so he really has no need if that was the quarterback choice that he had to make there at that spot. Tee Higgins, on the other hand, plugs right in, right? Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, now Tee Higgins as his wide receiver 3.
Well, and if you just think about it too, relative to the context now, I want Higgins. I mean, 106 is going to be one of these quarterback cloggers. Can we call it a quarterback clogger in a 10 team?
It's hard to do, but in a 10 team, I think I'm okay.
Can we call it a QB clogger?
I think
like
it's a
this.
QB clogger.
I just coined that right now. It's staying around. But here's the problem. Like, just think about scarcity for a second. If you were, it's not going to be even. It never is. But if you just said it's going to be even, right? So we're going to do 10 teams with 3 quarterbacks. Every team can have a starter, and there's still 2 at 3 of them. Every team can have 3 starters, and there's still 2 starters on the open market. There's no such thing as scarcity. Like, it's not even close. So, like, those guys that don't matter but have dynasty value, that's the last thing I want to roster in this type of a league.
You know why the other guy makes it? ZT Stokes. I can see his roster, too. He had Dak Prescott and nothing else at quarterback.
And there you go. That's how, even with all what I just said, you somehow leveraged in 10 team.
Somehow leveraged
Holy
a
crap.
in 10 team. I love it.
10 team Superflex, half PPR, half point tight end premium, start 10. MF Dynasty, Byronic, new shithead in the Discord. So, Mike, here's the trade. Stephon Diggs, Elijah Moore, Michael Carter, and a 25-second. So this deal is really about getting that Stephon Diggs, given that we're starting 10 in a 10-team in its lineup. Sending away Cooper, Gibson, JMO, and a 24-second that's not included in the deal. Mike, what do you think here, buddy? Because, like, this is Amari Cooper, who also is a little older but has a chance to be very good. You got JMO and Elijah Moore, you got Gibson and Michael Carter, and you got these exchange of seconds. Like, really, in a deal like this, you can talk about the outside metrics of any of the players on both sides, but these 3 pieces are very ancillary relative to Diggs and Cooper. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are on the deal as a whole and which one you want.
Because it's a 10-team, start 10, like, I'm a little bit more biased towards the Stephon Diggs side just because you're consolidating into one really, really good piece at wide receiver.
Yep.
I don't think Amari Cooper is running the risk of not making your lineup in a 10-team start 10. Like, you got to have a really good squad for him to not even make your lineup there. And I'm with you. He is pretty good. Of course, you get my boy Antonio Gibson in there. Jameson Williams, on the other hand, definitely on the risk of not even being not rosterable, but not startable in a 10-team start 10.
Right.
With what we know now, what we've seen so far, like, he's got to take a massive jump in order to be in that start every single week territory. But the same thing for Elijah Moore and Michael Carter. Like, both of those guys, no. No. You got an exchange of seconds. One of them is a 24. If I look at it, like, I'm okay giving up Amari Cooper and JMO And I'm gonna say the 24-second for the 25-second pick swap. Like if I put all that for Stephon Diggs, completely fine. I'll give you Cooper. I'll give you JMO. I'll give you my 24-second. You give me your 25-second back, but you give me Stephon Diggs. Like I'm fine with that. I think that's okay.
Does the Gibson and Carter thing make it hard for you?
The Gibson part like just drives it in where I go, damn it, I don't really like it. Like the Gibson Carter thing, I don't really care about getting Elijah Moore back. The Gibson Carter, like Gibson, I really do think he had some weeks last year where you would start him in this format, right? It's a running back on a 53. Even Scott, who told you last year to sell Antonio Gibson at Gibson's current prices, I bet Scott will buy the shit out of Antonio Gibson, man, because he does have that explosive ability, that ability with his skill set to actually do something and be a startable running back and to be a difference maker. But I think as a whole, though, I'm okay with it if I kind of put my Gibson love aside. I think if I do, I'm fine with it. You want to call Gibson and Elijah Moore a wash. Michael Carter, I don't really care about. But Cooper, JMO, the 25-second swap for the 24-second swap, and you give me Stephon Diggs, I'm completely fine with it because Diggs is a difference maker in WoRP. I think Amari Cooper could possibly have it. We talked about it on the AMA. Could be a wide receiver one. But I don't want to bet on coulds. I'm going to bet on like shoulds and will. And it's Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, so just last year in WoRP, with Brissett starting 12 games, Amari Cooper was wide receiver 12 in WoRP in this league.
Okay.
Now, the crazy part, though, is even with that said, we're talking about 0.7 versus like 0.15, really. So, like, double the WoRP. Because in 10-team, right, it just...
1.5.
1.5, right? I'm sorry. Yeah, 1.5. So my point is, you're talking about because it's 10-team and everything is shallowed out, the player pool is not drowned out enough. So even the teams that aren't that good are throwing out lineups which are like, if you looked at this in a 12-team league, you're like, holy crap, this isn't that bad, you know?
Yeah, this is a star-studded lineup, man. This would be pretty good in a 12-team. You got to be a top 3 contender, right?
Right. So I don't play in a lot of them, but I'm getting a lot better at just seeing the differences and understanding it in WoRP and seeing how the markets work based on like trade discussions and what I'm telling patrons to do in these leagues. Mike, I'm telling you, the economy in a league like this, the difference in Cooper and Diggs is very different. Like now in July, maybe it isn't because it's no one's scoring points, right? But when we're playing football, the difference in a Diggs and a Cooper is drastic. And the other stuff here is not going to matter. And now, Mike, if we're talking about if it's a Diggs and a Cooper, right? Let's just say it's a Diggs and a Cooper, and we're going to add Gibson in, and it's a 12-team league, like, and there's like juice scoring for running backs that catch passes or some shit like that. I could have a little more discussion about Antonio Gibson. It's a 14-team league, and we're going scarcity on it. Like Gibson all of a sudden might come into the conversation a whole lot more. 10-team league, even if I think Gibson's going to have these explosive weeks, I don't really still care. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to say that, but it's the truth. Like, it's just the way it is. I don't want any of that other stuff as junk. I'm looking to start people that weekly you don't hear questions about on the start-sit show. Antonio Gibson's not that for me. So that's the point. If I make it in a very condensed space, Diggs is the one side that I want of this deal.
Yeah, nobody asks you if you need to start CMC. Like, nobody asks you that question. Exactly.
All right, Mike, so we're looking at a 12-team Superflex half PPR start 9. Supposedly this is called This Is My Home Dynasty League. I'm calling bullshit on that.
Yeah.
I want to see that to be the case. I feel like that's just what he put in the chat. But anyway, Mike, we're back to 12 teams, which is more important. So we're in neutral ground, which feels good again. Devontae Adams and Michael Gallup are being acquired by Alex FS, which is our new patron. And it's AJ91 sending away Deontay, a second and a fifth. I mean, I don't know, Mike. What are you thinking about this deal initially? Like, what are your talking points? What stands out to you?
This deal is easy for me to do. I'm more concerned, like, the title of this, because that is not the actual name of it.
Fair enough.
Listen, I'll spoil it here, but I'll take the Devontae Adams, Michael Gallup side. No question about it. Start 9, Michael Gallup is irrelevant, but Devontae Adams, still very, very good at football. I don't care who the hell the quarterback is, still very, very good at football. While I did say like Deontay is kind of like a sneaky guy for being maybe a wide receiver one, they told me to get sneaky, right? They told me to get sneaky. I went with Deontay Johnson, but I will pay Deontay Johnson in a second all day long for Devontae Adams. The fifth is fucking irrelevant. You can have all the fifths in the world if you want, man. I'll throw you 50 of them if you really feel like that's what you need to get this deal done. I'm taking Devontae Adams all day long on this side, but now I'm really like my detective skills are out trying to figure out which fucking league this is in.
I'm going to tell you, detective wise, for me, it's a pretty easy one. So if I think about when someone says they have a home dynasty league, to me that means like, okay, obviously this is the people you played with, but it's probably been around for a while, right? If you're looking at a guy like this with 5 leagues, to me this is a one paid. But it's 5-year dynasty, so like this has been around for a minute. This is the oldest league he has, is my guess. What do you have though?
It is not, because we have that sleeper tool. Second plug I've got to do.
Boom!
Sleeper,
what do you got?
Is awesome.
Which one is it?
So he's only in Alex is only
5
in a
leagues.
handful of leagues. 5 leagues, right?
Yep.
I can just go in and I can type in Devontae Adams, since we obviously see that he's got a Devontae Adams.
Just
he
trade
has
it for
one share of Devontae Adams,
and
it is in Dynasty 101.
All right, that was going to be my next guess. And I missed it though. Okay,
you did miss it, but sleeper to the rescue. We found it, Missy. It's not called "This Is My Home Dynasty League." It's called Dynasty 101.
I love that. But here's what I will say. Regardless of the league, which I had run the WoRP on all of these, but you'll see up here the one WoRP that we're talking about, which is Dynasty 101. To me, it doesn't matter actually. It really doesn't, because when I'm thinking about start 9, first and foremost, what does it matter in start 9? Like if I know about lineup start 9, that means either we're doing 3 receivers in the shallow flex or we're doing 2 receivers and a couple flex, right? So it's already really geared towards, let me get the high-end guys. Like Deontay Johnson, realistically, with Pickett at the helm, maybe I project him to be better this year. Maybe like you said, if I'm trying to get a little bit, I don't even want to call it hot takey, but I'm trying to find more of a diamond in the rough, Deontay. Like Devontae Adams still this season, without injury, could be a top 5 guy in Dynasty. Not in Dynasty, I'm sorry, but in points per game, right? And he was 3 in this league last year, specifically in WoRP. Deontay doesn't have that in his range of outcomes. And the reality, too, is even if this 24-second, like if you completely mess this up, and that's like a 204, 205 pick, 203 pick, I don't care. Like the shot at Devontae Adams is worth that. Even if Adams was to get hurt, Deontay didn't mean much, and that 24 seconds early, like it's worth the shot to me. You're not doing anything in this process, which is like, all right, this is just kind of silly. You don't need to do this now. This as a whole makes sense. And when I'm thinking about lineup start 9, and WoRP is very reflective of this. Typically, the starter count being very shallow is reflective of the steeper lines, right? Because you just think about it. You're trying to get more wins over the randoms, and the randoms become fewer and far between in this league. So I want the high-end asset lineup start 9 like this. And in half PPR, it makes the whole thing of Deontay, even if you said his value bakes higher, is he's going to be a volume guy. This is a guy that's going to get a bunch of catches, and half PPR even dilutes that further.
Right. I love this. Devontae Adams. Now, Alex, while I say I love your trade, I'm glad you're a new patron of ours. The one thing I can say is, why stop rostering Mike Davis in this league? Just cut him. It's done. It's over, man. Mike Davis, you could go. Marlon Mack, you can go. You got a lot of guys to clean up on this bench.
He's saying, listen, man, I've listened to Scott Connor, and just maybe there'll be a running back on a 53 somewhere.
No.
I love it.
Just cut him.
The easy part, I will say,
John Walford, you can cut him too.
Definitely. The easy part though about all those, it's not like that's a tough thing to do. Like you can just there's no bias, there's no inherent like heartstrings.
Right. Cut
those out, and you'll literally plug them in with whoever the fuck you want to on waivers in any time. So,
isn't that crazy though? Like you thought once upon a time you could hide behind anonymity, but with Sleepier on SouthHarmonFF.com, I'll find you.
I will find you,
and I will berate your John Walford shares on your bench.
I will kill you. And I will find you.
I love it. No, he killed this deal, though. I'm taking Adams all day long.
I mean, the truth in like lineup start, it's funny. I actually play in a 12-team half PPR start 9. It's a half point tight end premium. So like, I'm just thinking about this in a scenario where Mike, like I have Deontay in that league, and I just know for a fact, like forget Adams for a second, but just think of that range of receiver.
You got laughed at.
Just bringing him to the table in that deal is not. Like it's not, we're not at the table yet, if that makes sense. Like,
right.
It does. Like, I don't want your Deontay back in this deal. You know what I mean? Like that's it just, even for people that aren't sharp, it's just actually this is one of the leagues too where it's like it's so shallow. There's no like the what do you want to call it? The strategy piece is less involved there because everybody just wants to tier up, right? It's so less about like those extra edges. Everybody just knows, give me the fucking stud. I want Adams. He's been great for the last 5 years. I don't care about your Deontay Johnson who's coming off of a shitty fucking season where he probably didn't get started once in this league last year.
Listen,
you know?
It becomes like dude, where's my car when they're going through the Chinese restaurant drive-through. And then I'm bringing you Deontay in a second. And then
yeah, right, exactly. That's exactly what it's like.
You just keep waiting.
And then
no, and then no, and then
I will say too, one of the best parts for me is that we never even talked about it, and it's off now. But there's really a fifth in this type of a league format, and it was traded in this deal like it was any type of currency at all.
I need it. Need that fifth.
And then, all right, here's a fifth, but I need Gallup back. Done.
You could have sent him John Walford. It's about could have sent him John Walford. Maybe Mike Davis.
Think about in a league where you were starting 9 people carrying about a 5th round pick.
No. Hard pass.
All right, we're completely off the rails. Let's, Mike, what did you think about the trade show as a whole today? We had 9 leagues or 9 trades we were looking at.
It's good. We had some good deals. We got the patrons out here, the new patrons out here showing out. We got the old patrons out here like, bro, like I'm a DM away. I'm a DM away. That's Mike. This is what Dr. B. Harris has offered me. Do you think I should take it? Hell no. What are you thinking? Why? So it's a good mix. We had some good deals. It's also cool when we go and look at WoRP and have that discussion back and forth. I know Dynasty Mind Warped. Is that what it's
Mind Warped? Yep, Mind
Warped is going to be coming out. Can't wait to watch that one. But as we keep integrating WoRP, as we keep integrating these tools that we have on our website, very good to apply them. And it has changed my perspective on a lot of stuff. It continues to do it. I can still look at a trade in a vacuum. Then we can dive into the deep context of it. And some of them you find out, like, Adam, you think about when we were doing the show way back when, we didn't have the ability to. We just thought every pick's random, every single one of them. Or somebody would tell us, oh, yeah, this is an early first. Now we got the ability to go find out. Is it?
Right, but the best part is, like, right now we can say lie detector test. I don't think you looked at your league right. Like, League Simulator has this as the 110, my friend. Now, one of the points that for all the tools we have is that I think they should be used in unison with your process, right? Like, I think one of the biggest errors for anything is allowing one specific part of what you're looking at in your process to take hold of the totality, right? So, like, for example, there's still deals, Mike, where we don't need WoRP. Like, it's a receiver for a receiver, and we know who the fuck we want, period. Like,
right.
You can 100%. Keep your WoRP. I'm good. I don't need WoRP for that. I don't need your League Simulator. There's not even a pick in this deal, right? But understanding where the tools are, how they can be used, how they can be leveraged, maybe where it gets to the point where the economy switches on piggybacking stuff and talks of trades where maybe I want this other side because I'm able to now sell what people all think is the early pick, and I can go sell. And now I'm selling 4 picks, 3 of which are first, and I have all difference makers. I got Cooper, like in this trade you saw here, Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams. I forget all the names, but it's like Christian McCaffrey. What for one early first, really, in this league format? Like that's where I think you can do. You can utilize the tool as a big part of your repertoire, but not everything. At the end of the day, it's still all a part of the big process. What we've constantly conjured up here on the 4D Chess Dynasty Trade Show. So that's what we try to do. That's why we try to give you longer context, even if you want, us to review trades in 30 seconds. Sorry. You want that? You got to go find someone else. That ain't us.
Yeah, I can't I can't just shotgun trades, man. It always feels like I'm leaving meat on the bone, right? I need all the context. I need all the details, because how am I supposed to give you a good answer or a good opinion? I get those questions all the time. We get them in the comments of the YouTube. You guys do a fantastic job interacting with us, and I will try to answer every single question that I get. I will always try to answer your trade questions. But just know, when I'm giving you the answer, it's quick, bang, bang, boom, in a vacuum. Unless I got all the context, I can't give you a great answer. I really can't. What's your team direction? What's this? What's the WoRP say? What's all this? It's not because I need it as a crutch or anything. I can give you an answer quick. It just may not be the correct one, because Adam and I will do trades back and forth with each other, and we've both seen them over the last couple of weeks. We go back and look at some of those early deals that we made together, and we go, what the hell were we thinking? What was either one of us thinking at the time we made this? This makes no sense.
Yep. It's like if, actually it was weird. I think it was Twitter. Yeah, it was Twitter. Someone it was like, listen, I love your content. So I've just like listened, and if you've listened to all of our new content and are going back to the old stuff, you are a degenerate. Like, you want the answers. You want to know all this stuff. So they had gone back and listened to our stuff from like a year ago. And they said, one of you guys, I don't know who it was, because they were just listening on a podcast forum, made a trade of Jamar Chase for picks. And like, how did that work out? And I was like, I answered, I'm like, it didn't work out very well. I wouldn't listen to that. I wouldn't listen to necessarily all the specifics of that podcast. Part of what's actually really cool in the mind WoRP, I've talked about this a bunch of times too. Like, part of the reason I can speak to this WoRP and speak to the strategy behind it is because I've failed. I have gone through in this where I can actually see and tell you where WoRP matters, where I did not see it mattering. Now you have a graph that shows you that, and I can speak to the economy of why I fucked up and how I screwed this team up, which will then help you realize, as well as my future teams, don't go down this path. Do not chase WoRP to the extreme here. And I think ultimately the experience, the trading of this is getting us to the point where I'm pretty excited about the future, man. Like, I just think about all the different tools we're using, the people that are helping us build tools. Shout out to Koopa. Shout out to JCap. I'm excited, man. There's so many different ways that we are giving context and value to people, and we aren't able to do that with just ourselves without a crew of people helping us. And speaking of that, shout out to big announcements coming in the future. We have more people coming on to do content. We have more people coming to do tool building, video editing. We got Christian, who's going to continue to do more video editing. We're just getting started here, man. So if you like this stuff, stay tuned. We are just hitting the big growth that we're about to have in the future.
Oh, yeah. I think we're just getting out of the blocks right now. If this is a race, right, we're just getting out of the blocks. Like you said, you kind of hinted at, we got some big announcements coming. We have already hired a few people to join the team. They're doing some stuff behind the scenes, but we're going to have more people who are to be doing stuff in front of the camera, being with us all the time. So incredibly exciting to be in this position, especially since when Adam and I started this, it was just a joke. Most of the people that subscribed to us were friends in the space, or actual friends in real life that had no idea what fantasy football was, or our wives who are diehard supporters and have no idea what the hell we're talking about. They think we just come down here every night just to drink. Which we do, because I enjoy Adam's company, and I would come down here regardless whether or not we were doing fantasy football content or not. It's pretty incredible. But the fact that you, the audience, have built us up to this point, you guys keep supporting us, you guys keep liking, interacting, engaging, going to the website, being a patron, coming on, providing us with endless amounts of trades to grade. We can't thank you enough, and we just keep hoping to grow this thing, and that's what we plan on doing with all the hires, all the new additions, and hopefully a ton more content, because you guys keep craving it. So keep tapping in. Adam, man, that's all I got.
That's
First
all we
trade
got,
show
man.
Back. Always feels good. Can't wait to do it again next week.
Yeah.
In reality, it's more like 3 days. I would say next week.
As a matter of fact, I'll give you one last thing here. First, if you could, like Mike said, we are growing, and it would be a great help for us if you could continue to go down and like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Helps us get in front of as many eyeballs that actually enjoy this stuff. Even if you hate Mike and I, you might like the context, the banter, whatever it is about us that keeps you coming back. do that for us if you could. If you do want a deal featured on this show, like the last 3 patrons were, patreon.com/South Harmon, $1 a month for now. We'll get you in the door, put your trade in the Shithead Trades channel. We'll bring it on the show. We'll, whether it's Sleepier, whether it's the WoRP tool, whether it's the League Simulator, we're gonna get into the weeds and tell you what we really think about that deal. Make sure you check out the Dynasty Mind WoRP series Scott and I are doing. It's probably going to drop in the next couple weeks, so keep your eye out for that. Speaking of Mind WoRP, use the WoRP tool, southharmonff.com. Been a game changer for us, so those are the things we can plug for now. And lastly, I will say that this is on Wednesday. You're watching this. In a few days, on Saturday morning, you'll be watching Mike and myself do a trade show with Shane. Shane is the worst. You may know him from Dynasty Trades in 5. That'll be dropping on Saturday morning, so make sure you're tuned into that. Outside of that, that's all we got for you today, buddy. We'll see you back. Y'all. Yep.
Hey, if anybody knows too, like, just big shout out. If anybody knows like some reps at Dude Wipes, like, come on, man, holla at your boy. I'm a big time supporter. It fits the shit show. Let's go, Dude Wipes. Holla at me.
We Mike and I both have some Dude Wipes in the house. Plenty of them. Believe that. So Dude Wipes, here we are, man. We're ready for a deal. The shit show. There is no better partnership than the shit show and Dude Wipes. We love you guys. We'll see you back here, same time, same place next week for the Dynasty Trade Show. Out of this thing. Peace.